Yo, 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 what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Your Therapist Needs Therapy. I'm your host, Jeremy Schumacher, licensed marriage and family therapist. This is my last solo episode for a while. I promise, and I can back up that promise because I already recorded some other episodes. Go team! With some awesome guests. I'm genuinely stoked to be done talking by myself. That's for my YouTube channel where I talk about pop culture. We're gonna talk a little bit of pop culture today. As the episode of this episode is titled, we're gonna talk about masculinity and the grift of like, are men okay? And it definitely plays into modern politics. Like the right-wing media grift is deeply performative in its masculinity. And a lot of the talking heads participate in that. Donald Trump wears more makeup than, I don't know, I'm going to comfortably say most of the females in my life, and is like grossly out of shape. Joe Rogan is. So before I get into it, because it's easy to dunk on these people, right? Like performative masculinity is stupid because the fact that you need to perform it means that you don't have it. And like we could go, old school YouTube video essay and be like, here's what Guy Debord has to say about performative masculinity in Society of the Spectacle. Society of the Spectacle is a great book, covers a lot of our modern stuff, being all performance and no substance, which is, predominantly Joe Rogan, is Pat McAfee, is any of the dating bros. And like, I don't even know their names enough to be like, these ones in particular, because they're all like bad and do the same shit. The guys who sell like masculinity retreats, former Navy SEAL who grew his beard out and looks like a badass. And so, yeah, I titled this episode to poke fun at that because I think it is important to make fun of the grifters. They're not masculine. They're performative. They are pretending, and the thing they are pretending means that it isn't genuine, or they wouldn't need to perform it, right? So, yeah, and like, let's talk about what does masculinity mean? The divine masculine is. I don't even know if masculine has a divine. I only ever hear the divine feminine. Gosh, like, let's stop gendering bullshit. Gender inherently isn't good, bad, or otherwise, right? Like the fact that we gender nonsensical things, the fact that we think boys wear blue and girls wear pink is pointlessly gendered. Gender is the social construct, which means different societies build an idea and that becomes the social norm. And so social constructs around gender have changed over time. Pink used to be a boy's color. And like, yo, I got blonde hair, blue eyes. I look great in pink. So, like, none of this makes any sense. I just finished White Lotus season 1. I have a video about that, and like, or one upcoming. It's recorded. Armand looks baller in that pink sport coat. I got a pink sport coat coaching women's volleyball. We always have a breast cancer awareness game, and like, yeah, wear the pink sport coat. It's bomb. So I watch other things that are performative, right? I'm a huge pro wrestling fan, and gender in pro wrestling is performative, right? Like the women have breast implants and like are supposed to, quote unquote, supposed to look a certain way, which is very sexy. And like women's wrestling is a weird case study because it's been shifting and changing over the years. It used to just be bra and panties matches, and now it's like, look, the women can wrestle too. Aren't we progressive for thinking that women can wrestle too? Hey, we let the women main event. Aren't we progressive? While like Vince McMahon is sexually abusing and shitting on women's heads, literally, like, and figuratively. But hey, Linda McMahon's on Trump's cabinet, so the investigation into Vince went away. I don't know. What a dumb timeline to be alive. But pro wrestling is performative in the same way that like one of those dropout videos has done this in a comedic way, done it well, saying that like drag and pro wrestling are the same thing, and that like drag is about performing gender. It is theater. Pro wrestling is the theater kids who happen to like weightlifting. Um, like it's performance, it's storytelling, it's Cirque du Soleil meets the NHL plus Shakespeare. Like pro wrestling's weird, and this isn't a pro wrestling thing, but like pro wrestlers are fake tan, they have spray tans, they're doing supplementation, wink wink nudge nudge, to have their bodies look a certain way. It's all performative so that you can sell the story of this is the good guy, this is the bad guy, and they can turn those dials up and down depending on which story they want to tell. And for a while, like that sold. Magnum TA in the 80s was like masculinity. Dude had a fucking perm and a tan. Like, I don't know. Gender doesn't make sense to me because I'm autistic, I guess, but also like, not I guess, I am, but like, I guess that's why it doesn't make sense to me. It's always seems so very arbitrary. Like, why is that thing masculine? Because Magnum TA had a baller mustache. Like, why is body hair masculine? Doesn't everybody have body hair on some level? Why is the upper lip hair masculine and then the rest of the hair needs to be removed if you're a pro wrestler? Like, I don't understand. But modern pro wrestling, I'm spending too long on pro wrestling. I'm losing some of you, I can tell. There are good examples of masculinity. Hangman Adam Page is like a repackage of Magnum TA, but the millennial version. He's the anxious millennial cowboy. He cut a promo on taking time off and spending time with his kid when he first became a dad was masculine. And like, great. I don't think we need to gender being a good parent, but like, kind of. I think there is this pushback of like, we need to sell some version of masculinity for people who are like being pulled into the right wing grift. And it's based on shame. Like, somehow you are not enough, or you are not meeting some standard. And like, the game is to not get people to think that the standard is made up. Right. But Rogan is, let's talk about, for a second, let's talk about punching up or punching down. I don't want to pick on, and I wouldn't encourage people, and I don't want to engage in making fun of people who fall for the grift, right? Those are people who are looking for help, who want self-improvement, who want something to be different in their lives, and they're drawn into something by con men. And like, that sucks. They're being victimized by the people with power. I do want to punch up. Joe Rogan has, I think, still, maybe it's not anymore, but I think it's still in like the top 5 or top 3 or whatever most popular podcasts in the world. Donald Trump is the president of the United States. Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. And like, whatever, some of that probably deserves some asterisks, but like, I'm not picking on random dude who has social anxiety or a stutter or is balding or whatever and is insecure about that and wants help. Like, good. I'm glad that people want to self-improve if that's what they want. I think pursuing self-improvement because you think you are somehow deficient because society has said X, Y, or Z, wealthy dudes get hair plugs. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's okay if you're balding. That happens to pretty much everyone. It's genetic. There's not a lot you can do about it, and it's certainly not your fault. Like, that's not a thing that people should be judged on. Height, not a thing that people should be judged on. The whole like dating world where like women want dudes who are 6 foot or over. So you have all these like dudes who are 5'9" or 5'10" saying they're 6 foot and going out on dates, and then like people being like, "Dang, you're really tall." Like, because we have warped this idea of like what height even is. I'm taking a break to rub my forehead because it's all so dumb. And like, right, because it's made up, right? Social norms are made up. Social constructs are things that are built out of nothing. It provides structure to a nothing space, but it isn't based on anything, and it's not a good system because there's no backing to it. Insert same goes for capitalism. Um, so I don't have a problem punching up at these grifters because, again, like, I will make fun of them for the things that they are performing because they don't really have them, and they're in a position of power. I am speaking up to them. They have more viewers. They have more money. They could have me deported illegally. Not deported. We just call it kidnapping. Like, they could have me kidnapped. Um, and so there's a resistance to this, but also like a reality to this. This isn't just I'm mad at these people because I don't like rich assholes, but that's true. I don't like rich assholes. I am mad that they are using their power to hurt other people, right? And I guess that's what I care about. So let's sort of go through the right-wing grifters with daddy issues. I'm just gonna end up doing a YouTube review of Father Time by Kendrick Lamar because he has a way with words, and it's just going to articulate what I'm going to take 40 minutes to say in a 3-minute song. Rogan is deeply insecure about his height. We know this. He is like weirdly possessive of pictures that people take of him where like he stands and he like tries to get forced perspective, and he doesn't want his whole body to be photographed because he's quite small. And he's been doing like human growth hormone, which messes up some of like your diaphragm and the way that your chest looks really weird. And like, yeah, again, like deeply self-conscious. I think he's owned being bald. But again, if you go back early in his career, like he was balding and was like trying to cover it up. And at some point you just shave that shit off and like run with it, right? Like, again, I don't think whether you have hair or not is an important thing. Look at these lovely locks. If you're watching it on YouTube, my hair is quite long. It's all natural, no plugs or hair surgery or whatever. I did for a while work next to a place that sold hair plugs, and I really wanted to just be like, hey, will you pay me to like be your sponsor even though my hair is all natural? Like I'm the vision of what you're selling, right? um and again, it's something that like I didn't work for, I didn't deserve, I haven't done anything for it. I wash and comb my hair regularly, and that's it. I mean, I condition it too, but like, wash, condition, comb. I don't blow dry it or dye it. I don't harm it, but I don't really take great care of it. Specifically, I put it up when it's wet all the time, which supposedly is bad for it. It was just like genetic lottery, right? Like both my grandpas had full heads of hair when they died in like an old man way, not like they had like luscious locks, but like neither of them went bald. And so it seems unlikely that I will go bald unless like the stress gets to me, which is definitely possible. The theme of the podcast comes into why I have maintained my hair in spite of a stressful lifestyle. Not even my lifestyle is very calm, just a stressful job. So yeah, like, and Rogan's like 5'2", so like, the Rogan bros will be like, dude, he's like got the strongest kick power in the world. He could like beat you up in a fight. It's like, well, if he could reach me, because it'd be a cartoon where like, I reach out and hold his head and then his feet won't reach me because he's so short. And like, again, this is me being shitty because I'm punching up. I don't know what Joe Rogan's kick power is. I know I'm 36 years old, run my mouth a lot, and have never been in a fight. Because like, I don't know, traumatic brain injuries are bad for you, and I care about my brain health. And so, yeah, I've never been in a fight. I have antagonized lots of people while playing sports with them. I think I was slapped once by a guy that I was making fun of. A guy that I worked with who was dating a 17-year-old when he was 18. So there's just a lot of jokes about like, do her parents call you by your name or do they call you the babysitter? Immature but somewhat good-natured ribbing that went on for far too long until he slapped me. I guess that's the closest I've come to a fight. And like, I didn't throw hands because, yeah, I'd been messing with this guy for a week, I worked on a golf course and we were all bored. I'm not defending it. I was a bit of a bully. That's not great behavior. I was young and working on a golf course every summer. You found your own entertainment because it was a boring job. Sorry, Kyle. It's okay that you slapped me. I deserved it. Don't promote physical violence unless it's against CEOs. Uh, punching up is okay, right? I'd been bullying him for a week for something that was out of his control. It wasn't anything bad or wrong. They were both in high school, started dating. He turned 18 before she did. Nothing yucky or gross about it. And I was making fun of him because I was bored in my summer job. My younger self wasn't great, I will admit. But no, like, I don't know. I've never been in a fight in spite of talking like this. Like, this is how I show up pretty much everywhere and kind of run my mouth because I don't know. I trust my mouth to be able to also like get me out of trouble. And I'm not interested in engaging in a physical altercation. Like, I don't need to prove my masculinity by engaging in a fight. I will probably just outsmart someone because like that's my MO. But also like I don't want to get in a fight because I care about my brain. And I don't care about some social constructs of like masculinity more than like not getting a concussion. It's pretty high on my list of priorities, right? Like let's not get concussed. Seems good. Protect the noggin. So yeah, like Joe Rogan's kick power doesn't really mean anything to me because I would not ever want to engage in a physical altercation like that. So yeah, like the thing that his defenders are going to be like, well, he could beat you up. It's like, probably because he trains in kickboxing or whatever. And I don't. And also, I would never get in a fight with him. I would challenge Joe Rogan to play volleyball against me because that is a thing that I train in. And I would beat him at it because he couldn't reach over the height of the net. And because I train at it and I'm good at it. Like, again, nobody's good at everything. Like, the fact that somebody could beat you at the thing that they're good at doesn't mean anything. Right? And like this idea that everything needs to be a competition is unhealthy. And the idea that everything that men do is competitive is also unhealthy. And I say that as a deeply competitive person. Like, I like to win. I grew up in a family of sports. I've had to work with this idea of masculinity my whole life. A, because I'm neurodivergent and none of it ever made sense to me. And B, because like I was socialized male in a patriarchal society in a high control religious family that definitely thinks gender norms are like God given and God has a penis and he cares deeply where your penis goes. But no homo, right? Like, we got to clarify that if we're conservative Christians. So like I had all this messaging around it, but none of it ever made sense to me. And so I don't like grow my hair out to be like, haha, Joe Rogan's bald. But for I don't know, I've had this long hair for 12, 13 years now. I've grown my hair out for a long time. I cut it like every 2 or 3 years and donate it to little kids with cancer who need wigs. Because I have baller hair and because I don't like getting my hair cut. Right? Like, it's not to be like, look at me, I look like Thor or Clay Matthews, although I do. It's not like that. It's truly because I have sensory issues and I don't like being touched, and therefore going to get my hair cut is deeply uncomfortable for me. And it's lucky for me that I have a great head of hair, so I can just grow my hair out for as long as I do. The reason I have the beard is not because I'm like, that looks great and I love when it drags across my plate while I'm eating food because it's so long. It's because I don't like shaving every day because my hair grows fast. And if I shave and try to be clean shaven, it'd be a lot of effort. And honestly, I don't much care for that. There's the background to the masculinity vibe I've got going on. And like, again, masculinity is so fucking stupid because like, does a dude with long hair, is that masculine? And like, the answer is like, sort of, right? Nobody's looking at Chris Hemsworth roided out of his mind for the Thor movies being like, that guy looks like a girl. But he has long girl hair. I think it's a wig for some of the movies. But like, because he has muscles, I don't know. Are like right-wing grifters aware that women also have muscles that they can like build through weightlifting or taking steroids? Certain pro wrestlers who's it's fine. I'm not going to name names. Um, not that not that pro wrestlers are listening to my podcast. Um, no, like and again, like that's just it, right? Like women have body hair, women have muscles. Like there isn't anything that's pointlessly gendered that isn't pointless, right? And like that's me calling it pointlessly gendered. There's nothing that's gendered that needs to be, right? Like I don't know. All the right wing grifters are like wearing makeup and have their little like touch ups and like get their brows dyed and have their hair plugs and are on their human growth hormone. You know, like Jordan Peterson has lost a lot of jobs and isn't actually a licensed psychologist anymore. So he has to compensate by wearing shitty suits and like a pocket square because that makes you seem distinguished. Because like he's cosplaying at being Freud, but smoking cigars has fallen out of favor. So, you know, but like, what's his name? Shit. The guy whose mom is a sex toy millionaire and his dad drilled oil or something. Marcus Aubrey. Aubrey Marcus? Something like that. He likes to have men on and smoke cigars like big manly men. Because Aaron Rodgers has been on his podcast. It's the only reason I know that. Aaron Rodgers, sad white guy, YouTube videos upcoming as well. Masculinity is so dumb. Pat McAfee's one too. That's just been like the reason I'm doing this video is because McAfee's been irritating me lately. Because for a while he was like kind of in that like harmless idiot stage that I think Rogan must have started at. And like I've never been an active listener to Joe Rogan, so I don't know. I just imagine he was like that vibe for like people who didn't have an older brother whose friends smoked weeds and were just or smoked weed and were just like fucking morons to listen to. But when you're younger than them, they seem cool and like the things that they say seem intelligent, but they're not. Not speaking from experience here. I did not hang out with my brother's older friends. They seemed weird even at the time. And I think they were, if we reflect back. I think my brother would agree with me on that. We were scared of drugs because we were raised evangelical Christian. Yeah, I don't know. And all the stoners I hung out with like said stupid shit. Like, so I guess I missed the Joe Rogan appeal of like listening to a reality TV host ramble on with other celebrities for 3 hours. Like, just didn't interest me because he's not smart. And like the people that I like listening to are smart. I do like listening to people who are really good at like anything, right? Like I would listen to Tony Hawk talk about skating. I would listen to a filmmaker talk about filmmaking. Not even like best of all time. Like I said, Tony Hawk, but I'm moving away from like, I don't even need to be the greatest. Like McAfee sort of started as like, hey, I played in the NFL, so I know what it's like to talk, like play at that level. So I'll have football players on and talk about like, this is what the locker room is like. And this is what happens in timeouts. And like all that stuff is interesting to me because like I do enjoy sports, even though I'll complain about them a lot and like how they've been ruined by capitalism, etc. But like, the idea of like listening to somebody who has been very successful in their field is interesting. That the issue becomes when they start talking about other stuff, and then when they're wealthy, they think that they can talk about anything because they don't have any consequences, and then they're just fucking morons. And like that's where Rogan has landed. Like I don't think people hated Joe Rogan when he was a UFC commentator and he talked about UFC and like because he knows a lot about it. And like, so that's fine. What he doesn't know a lot about is how to do research or vaccine efficacy or public safety or how to run a democracy. Joe Rogan is a fucking moron. He drops out of college. He's not a good comedian. You know, like there's a lot of things here where like he's not good at these things. We have a lot of evidence of that. And because he's insecure and he should just go to therapy and stop doing so many drugs, because doing the drugs without doing any self-reflection and awareness and intention setting, preferably with the help of a professional, he's not made any progress actually. And he's just doing drugs. He's not self-improving, but he's insecure And like his dad seems like a piece of shit. So again, like, sure. So do a lot of monsters. It's a lot of dudes with daddy issues. Trump, Musk, like, I don't know Jordan Peterson's background, but it wouldn't surprise me if he had shitty parents. So like, grown men with daddy issues. Like, just go to therapy, bro. Like, you could do a podcast like this, like, hey, I'm in therapy. I'm a therapist. I talk to other experts in the field because I know a lot about this stuff. And I think that's interesting for people who want to listen to experts talk about the thing they're experts in. But also, like, I don't know. The difference between intelligence and wisdom is like knowing you don't know everything, that you don't need to be good at everything, knowing that like masculinity is a performance and it's made up and it's not based on anything. So I'm not performing masculinity by having a big beard or long hair. I just don't like being touched by strangers. So I don't have a regular hairstylist. I do. Her name's Leah. I see her once every 3 years. She's delightful. She's not the reason I don't like getting my hair cut. That's just a me thing, right? I don't have a barber for like my facial hair. Leah just does pretty lady hair. And again, that's me saying it's pretty lady hair because like that's how other people refer to it. Like I go to volleyball tournaments and people ask if they can comb my hair or cut my hair or touch my hair. Like, no, I don't like being touched. That's the whole thing. Right. It's pointlessly gendered. I'm calling it lady hair. It's just hair. People have hair. I'm like exhausted from talking about stupid shit. But there is like a real issue with not masculinity. That's not what's under attack. And if people are talking about like the men's crisis and men's mental health, and then they start talking about masculinity, which I'm only doing in response to them, is like they're missing the point, right? Oh, the bearded therapist was a joke at like, if you're in the Midwest, you know who I'm talking about because you drive by a billboard of his. And it doesn't matter what state you're in the Midwest. He claims to be a local. And it's just like an average white bald dude who has a beard. And that's his whole fucking brand. Like, I don't shave, hire me as your lawyer is a stupid tagline. I'm good at growing facial hair, hire me as your therapist is stupid. Don't pick your therapist based on their facial hair. Unless you want to go to therapy because you can't grow a beard, or like you can grow a beard, but like it stresses you out somehow. I don't know. I can tell you I don't know that much about growing beards or maintaining them. This just happened. And it is fine. It works for me. Like I'm not an expert on it. I don't do anything. That's why masculinity is made up. Like that's why the people who are performing it have to put in extra effort to perform it. Ben Shapiro's eyebrows are not that dark to begin with. Why are they so dark? Why is that a thing? Why does having dark eyebrows make you more masculine? Ben Shapiro and Matt Walsh confuse me. Because like they're theater kids who couldn't make it in the theater, so they went to politics. I guess they're not that confusing. I can summarize it like that. Musk, we have lots of evidence he's balding very early in his mid-20s. Has hair transplant. Trump has hair transplant. We know this. Like he's not even denied it, and his exes have all talked about it. He abused and raped his wife because she like told him they looked stupid. So again, like we knew that before he ran for president. So if you voted for him, you're not a good person. He's also like the reason some of this coincides with like the rise of like AI art and like bullshit like that, because like you can't like look at a video of Trump playing tennis and think like that's inspirational. That's what I want to be like when I'm an adult. Like it's performative, and they need to keep the performance up because if they stop, then like it looks stupid. Like Trump won't go out in the rain because it'll ruin his hair and makeup. Like I don't know, if you're a strongman politician and you want to be like, look at me, I'm so masculine and I'm so great, like probably don't have JD Vance as your VP, whose eyeliner is going to run if he goes out in the rain, and like you guys are so strong, but you can't go out in the rain, you know? Like, not talking about like a hurricane, like Mother Nature, force of nature, like, right, Mother Nature's going to win all the fights, you can't beat a hurricane. Donald Trump thought he could nuke them. But like, you can't handle a sprinkle because it ruins your facade. Like, whatever idea you have of masculinity, it isn't, I can't go out in the rain or I look weak. Like, that's so weak, right? And like, I think their performance is so over the top because it needs to be, right? Like, it is so weak. They are not clever, they are insecure, they are scared, and then they need to project strength from all of that. So, like, yeah, I don't know. Andrew Tate is sexually assaulting women and then selling them. Like, not somebody we should listen to for dating advice, right? Like, look at how many followers I have. You should listen to me. Like, I don't know, you look like a moron all the time. I shouldn't listen to you, judged on the content of what you say. So, like, some critical thinking comes into some of this, right? Like, why are the people who are claiming to be experts on this thing? Masculinity's made up. If you listen to somebody who studies like sociology and talks about like gender and stuff like that, it's I'll I don't want to say boring because that sounds mean, but like, I was a cultural studies minor, and like, I'm glad I didn't major in those classes because I got to minor and take the fun classes without doing like the really, really deep theoretical classes that get so like wordy and kind of up their own ass that it becomes very boring. And that's not saying people shouldn't study cultural studies. They should. It's saying like, when you get into like studying, postmodernism, and then you're reading like an 18-page paper on like hypermodernism, that like at some point you lose the ability to just go like talk to regular people at a coffee shop about what you're studying. And like, right, that happens when you reach any sort of echelon of education. Like, at some point you have siloed your area of information to be so narrow as to only be able to talk to other people about that stuff, right? Like, I don't want Aaron Rodgers, former MVP, NFL quarterback, to be giving me healthcare advice because he's really good at throwing a ball. That doesn't mean he knows much about science. And like, we can be like, hey, let's double check. Does he know a lot about science? Well, he went to college, but he didn't graduate. So like, he might know a little bit about science, but not too much. What did he study in college? Communications, not communicable diseases. So like, maybe we should listen to him about throwing a ball, but not listen to him about diseases. That'd be great. Jordan Peterson's an interesting one, and I've done like a long, long, long video about Jordan Peterson, and so have other people. I think Some More News did like a 3-hour video on him. But like, he claims to be all sorts of things. So depending on what he wants to talk about, he has a different background. And I, as a neurodivergent person, can wrap my head around a little bit of that. I talk about doing religious trauma. I am a licensed marriage and family therapist. I have a background in sports psychology. And I work a lot with neurodivergent adults. Like, that's 4 niche areas where I am a quote unquote expert according to society. What that just means is I've studied it a lot more than most other people have. Not that I'm the greatest or the best or the go-to expert on it. Just like, I've spent a lot of time learning about these things. And so like, and that's a lot, like, that's a lot of stuff. That's various disconnected information I have in my head because my brain is ADHD and I like pick a new hyperfocus every once in a while, even in a career that I am the same career. Like, I'm still a therapist. I've been doing therapy for 16 years. So within that, I have, 4 different areas. But what Peterson does is like, I'm an evolutionary psychologist. I'm a biopsychosocial psychologist. I'm an expert on like, he's doing these different things and like trying to tack psychologist on the end, but like, he's not. He did have his PhD and he was a teacher, but it seems like his actual area of focus was quite narrow. He's not somebody who like has that ADHD life background where like he's done a ton of different stuff because he just can't sit still. And that's like an oversimplification of ADHD. I don't mean that in an offensive way. Obviously, I have ADHD, so can speak somewhat colloquially about it sometimes. But like, you occasionally will read about a famous person who like, I can never remember the pitcher's name. Is like this guy who pitched in like the 1920s World Series and like would just wander off and like go cut down trees and like fought in a war and some other stuff and just like what and like that life doesn't make any sense except you're like, oh well, like he just had ADHD, like he was really good at this thing, not the best ever, but like really good at it because his brain moves really quickly and he picked it up really fast and he got bored and he moved on. I get that. That's not Jordan Peterson. He's just lying about stuff. So where was I going with that? Oh, so what are we sort of left with? Well, we're left with like dudes who are like feeling disconnected. And again, like I think that's real. Do men as a demographic have a problem with their mental health? Yes. Does every demographic have a problem with their mental health right now? Yes. No one's thriving. What is it about men specifically? Well, like nothing specific, right? So you have to make something up. You have to throw in the masculinity grift there to be like, oh, this is what's wrong with men, that women are making them feel bad about themselves. That's not my full Jordan Peterson impression. That's just like my shitty dude talking, I guess. It's a little bit of like Barney from The Simpsons and a little bit of my impression of my dad. It's just an easy register for my voice to go into, I guess. You can also do Kermit the Frog from there, but you know, not what I was going for either. Here's my ADHD coming through. I've been sitting still for too long looking into a camera. The issue with men's mental health is that like late stage capitalism has made everyone lonely. So men and like male in America is a privileged status, right? Like that doesn't mean men are bad. That means patriarchy is bad. Capitalism is also bad, and there are men who are negatively affected by it. Honestly, most of them. Right? But like you have to have this intersectional this lens on intersectionality to understand that like male is a privileged class and being poor isn't. So anyone who's not super wealthy is struggling. Dudes don't have a lot of social spaces where they can go and meet. That's true for everyone. Closing of third spaces and community spaces that are available to anyone in any financial status is a problem in late stage capitalism. Men's mental health, like we don't have a male loneliness epidemic. We have dudes who can't meet anywhere for free. It's expensive to rent a golf cart and go out on the links for a couple hours. If you don't have any expendable income, you can't go do that once a week, right? So like it's not that men have a loneliness epidemic, is that people by and large are disconnected in our modern society, and that's an issue with late stage capitalism. Joe Rogan isn't going to do a podcast episode on late stage capitalism because he's a bootlicker and a class trader. But more importantly, because he's wealthy and he doesn't want the system to change, he's not going to address the real issue. And the real issue is obvious and backed by research. So he has to make up a villain to blame. Just women? Question mark. Is the attack on masculinity. Like, I don't know. We have a president who's a felon for sexual assault, and doesn't seem like that has hindered his life too much. So I think men still have it easier than women, just based on that case study, and a lot of other data. So yeah, like, I don't know. Go to therapy. Like, this isn't me like grifting for therapy, right? Like Joe Rogan wants you to do, you know, whatever supplement he's selling on his website, and probably like human growth hormone. Testosterone coffee sold to you by a former Navy SEAL who has a beard now. Look at that beard. I just hate like the beard industry as someone who has a beard because I didn't do anything, right? Like, I could be like, wife, look at how much facial hair I have. And she'd be like, not impressed. If I was like, look at how good I am at growing a mustache. Let me shave off my beard so I can do some crazy handlebars, which I could do with this bad boy. Not attractive, right? Like, I'm aware of this. I talked briefly about dressing up for a gaming convention as Eggman, which would require me to get a bald cap, and I don't know how that works, but I definitely have the mustache to do an Eggman. If I shaved my beard, the mustache would be pretty epic. My wife talked me out of that because she said I would not be attractive to her. I like to shave my beard when it gets hot, no matter what. Why am I on beard culture again? Because of the title. Who was I making fun of? Can't remember. Oh, low T coffee, high T coffee, high testosterone coffee sold by bearded Navy SEALs. I remember. Does having a beard mean you know how to make good coffee beans? It doesn't. That's unrelated. So probably not a good marketing tactic. Unless you're cashing in on someone who's already feeling insecure and your business model is to keep them insecure so you can sell them shit. That's not my model. That's not why I'm saying go to therapy. I'm saying you need to do therapy with me. I'm saying work on yourself. That would be great. Therapy is great for working on yourself because you're paying an expert to work very specifically and come up with a personalized plan for you. It's like, I don't have a better example than like a mechanic who comes in and is like, oh, you drive a 2010 Toyota. Here's what parts that needs. They were designed specifically for the 2010 Toyota that you drive. Like, that's what therapy is. Like, here's this thing. It works really well for most people. What you're telling me about yourself sounds like this. So let's use this thing that's designed specifically for that. You can get some of that from a self-help book, but it's not personalized in the way that therapy is. Read a self-help book, not by a right-wing masculinity grifter or a left-wing masculinity grifter. I don't know if those people exist, but probably. Don't listen to masculinity grifters. How much hair you have or not, or how quickly it grows, is pretty much genetic. Stress can have some impact on it. Your diet can have some impact on it. It's not that big of a deal. Calm the fuck down. So yes, doing some work would be great. Finding community is great. And again, like, that's a late stage capitalism problem. The idea that we can't just congregate and find community easily, accessibly, affordably is a problem for everyone. Men are affected by things that affect everyone. So it's not like a male loneliness epidemic. It's late stage capitalism is shitty. It makes meeting people hard. Our modern society, grifters included, but just pop culture in general, has this idea of masculinity that is unsustainable. Having this idea that men don't have feelings, men shouldn't cry, there are some feelings that are good or bad, is bullshit. Feelings are neutral. They happen to us. We experience them. They are not gendered. They are not good or bad emotions. Emotions are neutral. What we do in response to those emotions could be helpful or unhelpful. Shouting at your partner, unhelpful. Punching a wall, unhelpful. Yelling and screaming at your coworkers, unhelpful. Going for a walk, helpful. Writing your feelings down, helpful. Talking to a friend who's giving you reasonable feedback and listening to you and providing safe space for you, helpful. Right? So, like, emotions are not good or bad. They're neutral. They happen to us. Everyone has them. Our brains are wired for them. Not male brains, not macho brains, not 17 concussions because you're doing a diving headbutt as your finisher brains. That was another pro wrestling reference, sorry. All brains have emotions. They're signals that something is going on that we should pay attention to. That's it. So, like, yeah, some emotional intelligence would be great. Some skill building would be great. Some community would be great. And, like, therapy would be great. Let's see. What other? Yeah, like, less competition. And, like, I don't know. I have competition tied into capitalism. I like sports. I like winning. I like winning board games. I like winning trivia games. I like winning sports. Like, I don't know. I think that's environmental, not. I'm confident. I'm 100% sure that's environmental to how I was raised, not like a male or female gendered thing. So, like, yeah, man. And, like, these are just the people in charge. So I hate to like bring up this topic a lot, but like I feel bad genuinely for the dudes out there struggling to find friends or to date when they're wanting to date, who aren't misogynistic little pricks and aren't up their own ass and aren't, shitty humans. And they get pulled into this stuff thinking it will be helpful because the con men are selling them that it will be helpful. And then they become worse versions of themselves because they've been listening to shitty con men. And then, like, we don't have enough social safety nets in place to keep people like that from running the government, apparently. So the grift is good, I guess that's somewhat evident. I'm recording on a voting day in Wisconsin, so I can't be like, go vote. Or the woman in the race. No, so yeah, I guess we'll just leave it there. Don't listen to masculinity grifters. The issues that men face are societal issues in general that are almost all explained by late stage capitalism. Fuck capitalism. Fuck Joe Rogan, Donald Trump, Elon Musk, Jordan Peterson, anybody else I forgot to mention. Fucking Pat McAfee too. And Vince McMahon and Dana White. If you want to hear me complain about rich white assholes, I have a little series on YouTube called Sad Rich White Men. If you want to hear me talk to other mental health professionals and not just complain about politics, that's coming up next week and following. I am back on board. Everyone in my household, knock on wood, is healthy, and my schedule has normalized a bit where I have been scheduling guests for the podcast. And I will tell you, having one episode recorded already, super grounding for me. Whereas these solo episodes, I just sort of lose my mind stating how crazy things are and not really feeling any better about it. We heal in community, everybody. Take care of yourself. Take care of somebody else. We'll be back next week with another new episode with a guest. Hooray! Peace out.